Welcome back, everybody, to the Salt Lake City franchise here on MLB The Show 25. We are here for our first year player draft in season number 1. Boy, I'm excited to get into this for sure. Our draft board is set, and we are ready to enter the first round of this MLB draft. Now, this season is all about developing players, and this draft is going to be pivotal in this series. Are we going to find our franchise cornerstones? And as you can see, we only have a pick in each round, not including the compensatory round. So we have a first round, a second round, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And we are picking all the way down at 13 in the first round. Let's just quickly go over the top 5 guys in this draft according to the MLB ranking. Starting at number 1, first baseman out of Auburn, Rob Buckley. Buckley has a big bat. I don't necessarily think he's going to even have a chance of falling in this draft, so I did not scout him that much, but I know he's got a big bat. He's going to go somewhere in the top 5, I'm guessing, with a very slim chance of falling beyond that. But I know that he is one of the best collegiate hitters at the college level, and I think that he's going to be a really plus hitter at the MLB level eventually. The number 2 prospect in this draft is Terrence Bell. If I really had to choose one guy that could fall just a little bit, it might be Bell, but I still think he's a top 5 player in this draft. Now, he's pitched at Georgia, so he's played against some really good competition in the SEC, but I think having only 1 year under his belt as a starter definitely hurts him a little bit. The most controversial top 5 player is Mark Cutler. Cutler pitched 1 year at Rutgers, then abruptly ended up transferring away to JUCO, and scouts still really don't know what happened there. So the number 4 guy in this draft, though, is Brian Domingo. He is my favorite player in this entire draft, and if somehow, some way he falls, we are going to be running the card up to draft him. There is no doubt about that. Domingo has amazing break on all of his pitches. His fastball moves a lot as well. His curveball is out of this world, a 12-6, which just drops off like nothing else. And Domingo probably going to be gone, but we can hope that he falls into our laps. Then the final guy is Kevin Slaughter. We did not send any scouts out to see Slaughter, mostly because he did have 1 red flag. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries already at the age of 22. So we decided not to even go after him. So let's get into the draft. The Nationals have the number 1 pick, and they go with Terrence Bell. We just saw some highlights from Bell. He's a pretty good pitcher. I did not think that he would fall to us. His bonus demand is $9.4 million, higher than our whole budget. Mark Cutler ends up going number 2 to the Angels. I said he has been controversial because he did transfer away from Rutgers after 1 year, but nonetheless, he's the number 2 pick. And number 3 goes Rob Buckley. I knew he wouldn't be on the board much longer. He's got that big bat. He heads to Seattle to play with that young pitching staff and play with that very young lineup. They're going to be a good offensive team in the future of this series. Brian Domingo ends up going number 5 to St. Louis, so he did not stay on the board long at all. There are a couple of guys I really liked here. Juan Cabrera I liked. Mark Gleason was decent as well. Herbert Brown, it was a guy that I scouted at number 12. Our scouts thought he was like still a bottom 100 player, which is pretty crazy. So now here we are at pick 13, and here are the guys we will be evaluating here for this pick. The top guy I have right now is Esteban Calzado. Now, one thing I really like about him is that he is 18 years old with a pretty good ceiling, 75 to 96 potential, 63 to 84 overall. He looks like a really good strikeout pitcher. We did not scout him fully to 100%, but I am pretty confident with what our scouts brought back. The second high school pitcher I liked here was Dorian Oakes. He has a pretty high ceiling, but out of the two, I do like Esteban a little bit more. And then there's Michael Vigil, one of the few guys I scouted in this draft that had a really, really good bat along with great defense. Vigil is everything you want in a player. He's got a lot of experience playing baseball at the collegiate level at Texas. He is an All-American, and he was supposed to be honest, a top 10 pick in the draft, but scouts for some reason dropped him down to number 19 in the MLB rankings, and I'm just wondering why. So he did move up eventually to number 8, but at the beginning of the year, he fell down. But with our first round pick, we will be selecting the young gun, Esteban Calzado, out of high school, 18 years old. The right-hander's got a lot of good stuff and a lot of potential. I'm just so excited to get this series underway with a young elite pitcher at the high school level, and it's going to be a lot of fun seeing him develop and grow. Now, there weren't a lot of offensive players in this draft, but Michael Vigil ends up going right behind us to Tampa Bay, so he was going to be gone either way. But Calzado, I can't be happier. He's a really good pick here in the first round. In round 2, we do have some interesting developments. We don't have much offense still on the board at all. And we did end up discovering some decent pitching in Calvin Almquist. Now, he is 20 years old, slightly older than Calzado, but we did see him play in high school. He's got 72 to 90 potential. Another college player who I did like, Mariano Rodriguez. He is, like I said, another position player, but one of the few guys that I still had remaining that was draftable at this position because he does have high potential, but his bat is definitely not there. His defense is there, though. And then I consider here Johnny Cervantes, who is decent, Roosevelt Matson, but he doesn't have good potential, and some other guys, but I really wanted to go after a high potential guy, and Calvin Almquist fits that mold. So with our second round pick, we will be going with a lefty 20-year-old pitcher in Calvin Almquist. Now, Almquist is going to be interesting to develop with Calzado because now we have a 18-year-old right-hander and then a 20-year-old left-hander. So we have two really good pitchers to develop in this series, and I like that we are at least getting this out the way right now. We're going to be in the NL West. Hitters are going to be great in our division. Our division has a lot of offensive talent. We just need to make sure to get the elite pitchers in right now and develop them. So one guy I did miss on here in the second round was Felix Ortiz. I forgot to kind of filter by scouting, but I still really like Almquist. But Ortiz was interesting. He was a guy I would have considered there. But now we move on to the third round. And I've drafted 2 straight pitchers. Now I want to kind of go offensive player. Like I said, I think the offense in this draft is not very deep at all. It was very top heavy. A lot of good guys at the top of the draft. Then it just dropped off the cliff quite a bit. I do like Clemente Mendoza-Burks. He's really good. But I do have my my queue ordered up with Stoddard ready to go. And I do not notice the clock here at 10 seconds. Cervantes is interesting, but he just does not have a bat like I would hope. And I do like Mendoza-Burks, but we end up running out of time. But we did have the rankings of what I would have done. And we go after the prep infielder, Dan Stoddard. Now, one thing about him is that he does only have C potential more than likely, but he's very good defensively, and I'm pretty happy about that pick. So we move on to the fourth round, and Clemente Mendoza-Burks is still on the board here. I would have expected him to go way early despite his 124th MLB draft rank. Our scouts have him at 99, so we're drafting him at 117, and our scouts have him ranked in the top 100. I'm very happy with this selection. He's got 74 to 92 potential. Hopefully that stays there, and we can develop a nice young outfielder. In the fifth round, I don't really have too much on the board here. And one mistake I did make with scouting this year, which I'll remember going into season 2, is that I was scouting some not ranked players, and I probably shouldn't have because only the top 200 stay on the draft board. You can't even draft non-ranked players. So we decided to go with Sean Bichard, and we don't know much about him, but he is a relief man, and maybe we can develop him a little bit. And now on to our final pick here in the 6th round. There are just a couple of candidates here. Leo Cabral is here. Not too much upside. We do need some depth in our organization, and we're just pretty much swinging at the fences. And I don't see anybody that's got a potential that even at 10% scouting is up close to 90. So we end up deciding to go after Leo Cabral. We need another catcher in the organization. We end up going after him. And as we look around here with the players drafted kind of around him, you could just kind of see the potential. Not a lot here at the end of the draft. There was a couple of guys, but they're all relief pitchers. So I pretty much took one of the last remaining position players on the board. So that is going to do it here for the draft as we hop into All-Star Weekend. And we get to sign our draft picks during the month of July, get to the trade deadline, and then take a look at how our draft picks did turn out. Now, every team has at least one All-Star in the All-Star game. So as we go through the All-Stars here on the NL side, I am shocked by what I see. Daniel Schneemann ends up making the All-Star team. But how? He's only hitting .213 on the year. He's 70 overall C potential. That doesn't matter much. It's all about production. But he's only hitting .213, slugging at .309. I look at Alek Thomas, for example, hitting .261. He's got 11 steals, only been caught stealing once. Leads our team with home runs with 10. And he's lead our team in average. I think he's second in slugging. And I don't understand the snub here. Alek Thomas was definitely snubbed. I think this could have definitely boosted his confidence going into the second half. And it would have been a really good, milestone in his career to get. But somehow Daniel Schneemann ends up making the All-Star game. I have no idea how. So Schneemann gets his opportunity late in this ball game to come in and finish out the game in the 8th inning. So now we hop in the 7th inning. So now we hop in here facing Emmanuel Clase, and we'll see if Schneemann at least can show up here for the Salt Lake City Ball Club as he gets a 2-2 pitch low in the zone. A little bit late on that swing. Going to be a fly ball to left field. That one is run down in left. So we fast forward here, the bottom of the 10th inning. Schneemann gets another AB in this one as this one goes into extras. A 4-4 ball game with a man on second base. 1-1 pitch over the middle of the plate. That one is a swing and a miss. We eventually get it to a full count here facing Jeff Hoffman, and the 3-2 pitches over the middle, and Schneemann doesn't miss. This is back at the track. It's a ball game. Who would have expected Daniel Schneemann to come through? The most unlikely all-star is the hero, and he gives the NL the win in this one. But man, I did not see that coming. Schneemann making the all-star game. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed with that, to be honest with you. I was hoping that Alek Thomas would have made it, but somehow the game just did not like that. So we do hop into the futures game here, and we do have one futures participant in this one, and it's Domingo Orozco. Orozco is interesting because he is a relief pitcher, but he does have some games started at the AAA level. He started 19 games, pitched 90 innings, 7 quality starts, a 1.18 whip, 3.18 ERA, and he has his potential up to B. So that means that we started out this series with only one B potential guy in the organization. Orozco has actually progressed to a B. So he's having that great of a season where he has now turned into a legitimate prospect. So now we get into his action here in the top of the 8th inning, facing the first batter of the game for him, Denver Guzman, who ends up beating that one out on just a broken bat to the second baseman. Orozco facing the next batter, hits one to the left side, and that one gets through the infield. So our young pitcher is getting into a little bit of trouble here. 2 men on, no outs. Walker Jenkins to the plate now, and he will swing and miss at a low changeup. And the first K of the game here for Orozco. Outside fastball again. Theo Gillen goes down, or Gillen. And he swings and misses, and that brings up Max Clark, the young prospect from Detroit. And this one gets hit up the middle. It somehow sneaks through the infield. The throw home will not be in time, and the AL futures do get their first run of the game. But still a 3-1 ball game. The top of the order comes up, Carson Williams, and he will swing and miss at that curveball. 3 strikeouts for Orozco. He does give up a hit, a couple of hits actually, and a run. But we do get the victory here for the NL futures. Drew Jones ends up going 3 for 3 and wins player of the game. So throughout the month of July, I do get everybody signed here. Everybody signs within their signing bonus, and we do have enough money left. I believe we finished with like $1 million left. Esteban Calzado ends up signing with about $5 million on his signing bonus, so he's going to have a pretty good payday. Our other prospects end up signing for less than $1 million. That's expected, but I am excited to see their ratings in a little bit. Now, we do have a couple of things to address here before getting to revealing those ratings, and it's the trade deadline. You know, we are definitely sellers here. There's no world where we are buyers here going into the month of August and September, but I do want to acquire a prospect or two, or maybe another young player. You know, one thing that we don't do well is we do not slug well. Weston Wilson is leading us in slugging percentage at only .409. He has also progressed at 30 years old up to B potential, by the way, hitting actually pretty decently. Now, he has some trade value, but I'm going to decide to keep him because we do need some good hitters going into next season that were on the current team. So I'm going to keep him around even though he does have some trade buzz. I do look at the trade block and just to see which guys are available. I did take a look at Edward Cabrera here. He's in his mid-20s. That walks per 9 is just horrible, though. So I decided to stay away from him. But he's a decent guy that we could have went after here, 26 years old. But I am looking for guys that are like 25 or younger and possibly prospects that, you know, are tradable. Evan Carter was interesting to see on this trade block list. I can't believe he's even listed here at 22 years old, B potential. He's got a lot of trade value more than likely. Akil Baddoo is there. We've had him in a past series. Diego Cartaya from the Minnesota Twins. I thought he was with the Dodgers for some reason. Maybe he once was. But one guy I really want to go after here and that I've really evaluated closely is Justin Henry Malloy. Now, I talked about this a little bit before, and I said that I do want to slug a little better. And looking at his hitting attributes, he's got really good power. That vision is terrible. But I like the power on his bat versus left-handers and right-handers. Now, he has been used very seldomly for the Detroit Tigers here in 2025, but he does have some MLB experience at age 25. And he is a left fielder. His defense isn't going to be great. He could possibly play left field or third base. So I just decide to see what the Tigers want for him. And they do want Daniel Schneemann, the All-Star, which is actually pretty hilarious. You know, Schneemann could provide them with some depth in the infield. I don't think they're looking for a starter, but I think that he would add some depth for a team that, you know, might be, you know, competing within the next, you know, year or two to kind of get another playoff spot. And I look at Justin Henry Malloy, and he kind of fits what we need. I need another good bat in the lineup. I don't necessarily need defense right now. We're not even thinking about winning. I just want to develop a nice young bat. And at age 25, he's at a good age. They want Simon Muzziotti as well. And I just like this trade. 2 for 1, but we get a young player back, B potential, 25 years old, and we will accept that deal. So at the deadline, only one big trade goes on at the deadline, and that is Ryan Helsley going over to the Phillies. One thing I did do is I did turn the trade slider down a little bit because these trades in this game are just ridiculous, left and right and all over the place. All right. The final reveal for our draft picks in the draft this year, and Esteban Calzado ends up being 74 overall and 86 potential. I cannot be happier than what I am right now with this pick. I mean, starting out at 74, that actually puts him as the top overall player in our organization right now. And to say that he is 18 and he's got a lot of room to grow, this is an excellent starting point for him. Yes, it's only 86 potential. You would want like an A potential guy as your first round pick, but we were picking at 13 and he kind of fell to us, and I will take him gladly. And at 74 overall, he could be up at the show pretty quickly. Calvin Almquist ends up being 64 overall, but another mid-B potential. His stamina is a bit low at 63, but he will have a chance to develop that. His walks per nine is actually kind of low too at 37, so those are probably going to be the top two things I want to develop with him. But I'm happy with the pick. For a second rounder that was non-ranked for the MLB rank, and then he's ranked in the top 50 for us, I will take it. Dan Stoddard ends up being kind of disappointing a little bit. I thought he was going to be an elite defender. He's decent, but the arm accuracy and strength just aren't there. He's fast, 84 speed, a good base runner. His bat was already going to kind of come in lower. We already expected that. He's only 75 potential as well. Then there's Clemente Mendoza-Burks, 55 overall, 85 potential, actually pretty good. Like, I look at his ratings and think that he's going to be a decent hitter. Now, fielding is a different story. Defensively, I don't think he's going to be great. But if you look at him right now as a project and a prospect we can develop for a couple of years, you know, fast forward 2 years, if he wins minor leaguer of the year, he gets another boost to his attributes, and we'll cover that next episode. But he looks actually pretty decent. I'm happy with that pick. Sean Bichard ends up being 80 potential and 53 overall. You know, for a guy that was drafted in the 5th round, this actually isn't too bad. You know, his overall is low. He could possibly be a trade chip at some point if he doesn't develop quick enough. He's 21 years old, so we'll see how he does. And then Leo Cabral was our last pick. He's 46 overall, D potential, so he is the one bust pick. I'd say Dan Stoddard was maybe a bust pick too, but I'm happy with Clemente Mendoza-Burks and Sean Bichard. Those are two at least pieces that we could use in trade if we wanted to trade him away. But I want to develop Clemente Mendoza-Burks. He looks actually decent to me. So just looking around this draft, there was no generational prospects in this draft at all, and I thought we made out pretty good. Michael Vigil ends up being 73 overall, 83 potential, so we actually picked the better of the two. Vigil would have been really good for us. I'm not saying he would have been a bad player, but we picked a guy that had a higher overall and a higher ceiling as far as potential, so that's pretty good. Terrence Bell ends up being 88 potential, 68 overall, and he was the number 2 pick in the draft. Willie Colon was a guy that fell on my board. He ends up being 63 overall, 89 potential. That's actually way higher than what I expected. Mark Gleason was a guy I considered, and I'm glad I didn't because he was only 77 potential. And then I look at a guy like Gregorio Cortez, who went a couple of picks before us. He is one of the highest potential guys, and I think that we actually made it out pretty good in this draft. I'm very happy about the outcome. And now we have, you know, some cornerstone pieces to develop and to be excited about in the future, including 2, you know, pitchers that are both pretty young. So that's going to do it here in this episode. Let me know what you guys thought of the draft. I definitely am happy about it. I would give my grade about a B, mostly because that 3rd round pick was probably a bust with Stoddard, but the first two picks, I'd give those both an A, a solid A. And I'm just excited to see what we're going to go in this series with those 2 pitchers. So that's going to do it. Next episode, we're probably going to get through season 1. I didn't want to stay in season 1 too long, but I think what we're going to do is probably get through a bunch of player lock scenarios, talk about the future of the team, and guys that I want to stay around, and I'll probably take a closer look at some young players that, you know, have been surprising this year. So hit subscribe, hit that like button. Let me know what you guys thought of the draft down below. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.